Hello to the side and back. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tokika Ururu. I'm feeling nasally apparently, aka Toki. And today is just going to end up being a video that seems all over the place because it's just going to end up being a rant by a person that really likes creating fan fictions and stories, but also gets easily irritated when it comes to the research for these specific universes that they decide to go ahead and do fan fiction for. Before we get into the specific IP that I'm going to be talking about in this video, I'm going to talk about the way that I write stories, at least when it comes to fan fiction. You know, giving you a basic feel of why I'm going through these things. Number one, I love creating stories. I've said several times that I am at my core a storyteller slash performer. So just creating different worlds or creating different stories within existing universes is something that I really like doing, especially when there's certain parameters and it's just like you have to go ahead and figure out exactly how you're going to end up interacting with those particular parameters. These are the type of things that actually make my childhood fun. And when it comes to doing specifically fan fiction, I try to take it as serious as I possibly can because it is art, and that's exactly what I do. I'm one of those people that do believe that fan fiction can actually double as art, depending on the route that the person takes when it comes to creating it. It could also just be a passion project, and honestly most of mine are, which is the reason why they take a lot longer time. Now with creating stories in pre-existing IPs slash universes, I have to make sure that I have a decent understanding of how those universes, of what parameters those universes work with. Like, are there certain limitations when it comes to certain things? How would I be able to explain this without going slightly overboard? More to the point, where do I want the story to start and where do I want the story to end? Not necessarily the character. Depending. I don't know. We still haven't figured that one out yet. Now, some pre-existing IPs are a lot easier to write for than others. For example, I am currently working on a Demon Slayer fanfic and a My Hero Academia fanfic, and I already have like the entire story planned out when it comes to the Demon Slayer fanfic, and I've also watched up to where I needed to in the anime. I've actually watched past that, and I'm currently waiting to finish the rest of season 2 and then be in waiting for season 3. And with the My Hero Academia one, I am currently keeping up with not only where the anime is going, but where the manga is going, because the manga hasn't been finished just yet, and neither has the anime. But I'm trying to figure out where that is going so I can have a better understanding of where the overall story that I'm creating will go. But I am saying those were honestly a lot easier. And the differences between the manga and the anime, or the two separate storylines that are going on here, are like minimal. Minimal at best. I have a decent idea of what pieces and parts of the pre-existing IPs that my original characters slash self-inserts are going to be interacting with. I have a better idea of that, all of that, and I do end up writing down most, if not all, of the ideas that end up coming up in my head when it comes to these things. The TLDR is, when I go ahead and do fan fictions, I do have to think of them as actual stories, like actual creative stories that I'm writing from scratch. But no, at least for neither of them has given me this much irritation than the overall fanfic slash interactive story that I'm creating for the Pokemon universe. Now, my original idea for the story came from this one morning where I ended up finding this playing around with Bulbasaur ASMR video, and I thought it was really cute. And it ended up making Bulbasaur one of my favorite Pokemon, because originally I thought it was Charmander, but apparently, I mean, look at this face. Can you actually say no to this face? And like, I was so excited when it came to creating not only the character, what their personality would end up being like, but like also creating their backstory. I have, when it comes to creating fanfics, I always have to go ahead and think about a lot of things. So yes, I also ended up making a character sheet for the character. I even added in the entire idea, added in a bit like more personality driven background information, like the fact that the character specifically has two different Japanese words, Mizu and Niwa, water garden. But also the fact that they ended up getting a Bulbasaur as a birthday present when they were 5, and they grew up with the Bulbasaur, which is the reason why they could not become a Pokemon trainer slash master, but instead decided, I'm not going to be able to be a Pokemon trainer like all of the other kids, but I can go ahead and do is become a official Pokemon watcher. Again, I didn't know that was a thing. No one told me that was a thing. I ended up having to learn that on my own doing the research. But I think that's also something that you don't end up hearing in the game specifically, and although I haven't played most, if not any of the games, I've definitely watched other people play the games, and again, I have not heard nothing, I've heard nothing about being a Pokemon watcher, which is basically a person that does research on Pokemon species, both known and unknown. However, instead of going to the properly named Pokemon University, which is honestly where you end up having learning how to go ahead and battle with Pokemon mostly, self-insert character decided to just do that research on their own, essentially going off on explorations to different regions and gathering enough information on all types of Pokemon things. You wouldn't, you know what? No, because I didn't believe the amount of research I had to go ahead and do just to be able to make sure that my character did not have to actually fight Pokemon with their Pokemon. One, in the game specifically, you don't necessarily hear about Orange Islands, which is where my self-insert character is supposed to originally be from. You also don't hear about the official canon Pokemon sanctuary that they have on the island, on one of the islands in Orange Island, which again, I ended up having to go ahead and do research to find out, oh, that was actually a thing. But that just made it even easier for me to be able to be like, okay, so this character is going to end up being from here. That means I'm going to go mostly off of the TV show slash anime for Pokemon. But there are also some other things in the game specifically that I would like to go ahead and add in. So basically I had to go ahead and pick and choose when it came to both both parts of the IP, because there's a stark difference between the TV show slash anime and the games when it comes to Pokemon. Essentially, I'm having to go ahead and pick and choose between two different parallel universes that are trying to tell similar, if not the same story. Two of the main problems, one of them I've already solved, was trying to figure out things specifically for the Pokemon Sanctuary that I was talking about, where their father was supposed to be in charge of, and like how the different Pokemon types are supposed to be able to interact with each other, how many habitats slash rooms should I be making sure they're in there without completely taking over an entire, a very large space. But that also meant that I had to go ahead and learn more about the Pokemon types and how it interacts with others. It becomes even more stressful when you think about the amount of work you actually have to do. So I had to go ahead and do research on not only all of the Pokemon types, all of the Pokemon types' weaknesses, and how I would be able to make sure that this sanctuary does not immediately turn into chaos. But because of the fact that I also wanted the sanctuary to be a place for Pokemon trainers to have a safe space to go ahead and do even more research and like have a better understanding of different Pokemon types in a more structured environment. So I ended up coming up with the idea of creating 8 several habitats, and only 2 of the Pokemon types have their own, and that's again mostly for safety reasons. And those would be the poison type Pokemon and the psychic type Pokemon. I had a feeling like the poison type would have the personality of, I'm not trying to kill you, it's just that my existence is very dangerous and detrimental to your actual physical well-being. And then there are the psychic types, which I believe would end up being more of the trickster type. Either they didn't mean to go ahead and put you into a trance and have you go ahead and do stuff, but it just happened, or no, they absolutely meant to do that, and now we're causing chaos. But all of the other ones, it's like 3 types to a particular habitat. 2 or 3 Pokemon types to a particular habitat. At least where the story starts, they're supposed to be working on creating a habitat specifically for the ice type Pokemon, so you don't have to go ahead and deal with the water type Pokemon being too cold. That was just one of the problems I was trying to figure out. Let's go on to the other one that actually had me stop when I was supposed to be doing this. And that is specifically when it comes to the Pokemon regions and the chronological order of what goes down when it comes to these regions. One, having to make sure that I have the regions in their chronological order. And honestly, it's going to be even weirder when it comes to a lot of these other Pokemon games where you're going back in time. Yes, I'm specifically talking about Pokemon Arceus. Arceus, is that what it is? But also, there are a lot of different things within the region that are different from the TV show / anime and the games. Like in the TV show, they bring up specifically the Forest of Pikachu, but they don't necessarily, you don't see it in the games. I think there's a moment in the games where they go ahead and like nod to the fact that it exists, but otherwise, would you really know it does? Because I didn't. Like, there are even other like different strange differences when it comes to the anime / TV show and the games. And that is also like in the anime / TV show, they talked about Orange Islands. In fact, there was an entire I think race arc that ended up happening, or relay race arc that ended up happening in the TV show, but they didn't really talk about it in the game. So I'm just sitting here like, so I've just been trying to figure out like, what do I add, what do I not add, what am I going to, like, where am I going to be taking what pieces of which universe am I going to be picking and choosing from. And I think at some point having to deal with all of those choices all at once kind of like overwhelmed me, where I had to not necessarily drop it and say, no, I'm not doing this. More like I had to put it down and like move a bit away from it so I didn't end up just throwing something, honestly. Now that I got that catharticism out of my system. I feel like I'm ready to get back into actually working on putting the story together and figuring out whether I actually just want to go ahead and type up the story, or whether I want to do a more interactive story where I go ahead and have it as the character doing letters to their parents. All of this to say, I'm going to be working on something that I might end up posting onto here, which would be The Adventures of Sakura Mizuniwa. I think that was just overall not only me ranting about Pokemon and how confusing it is as a beginner in this specific IP slash franchise. And not just a beginner, but a beginner that wants to go ahead and create a story within this universe. But also just an overall life update. And with all that being said, it's time for me to get into the stereotypical YouTuber outro, where I, as a stereotypical YouTuber, would ask you to do the following. I ended up realizing as I was editing the last video I made that I didn't do that, and like I was like, But I was already like scatterbrained because of having to actually be serious in the video. So it just became like, nope, I'm not even going to try to record a clip for that. I'm just going to allow it to be the way it is. If you do like this video, which I'm not necessarily sure who's going to, but I'm honestly very interested, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Again, because I might just actually be putting this up here, or I might just be putting it on my TikTok. I have no idea. I'll figure it out when I get there. Press the notification bell if you want to be notified of whenever I post, once you have subscribed. Any type of questions, comments, concerns, or ideas for future videos can go into the comment section down below. And with all that being said, my name is Toki Uzuru, aka Toki. And this is Toki saying Toki out.